Jonathan Ross said, leaning in. Which classical guitarist wrote the opera The Child and the Enchantment? Was it Ravel, Segovia, or Rodrigo? Dell felt the sweat prickling under his shimmery suit. He knew this, or he thought he knew it, but his brain was a jumble of French phrases and Peckham market prices. I'm going to have to use me old SOS, aren't I? Dell said, his voice trembling. I'll call my brother, Rodney. Back at the flat, Rodney and Cassandra were dressed in their fantasy therapy outfits, Rodney as a gladiator and Cassandra as a police officer. It was supposed to be a quiet night of memory baggage unloading. The phone screamed. Hello, Rodney snapped, assuming it was their annoying neighbor, Mickey Pierce. Piss off, Mickey, you're getting on my tits now. Rodney, it's Jonathan Ross. The silence that followed was deafening. Rodney realized he had just told one of the most famous men in Britain to piss off. Rodney, we need your help, Jonathan said, hurried. Derek is on 25,000. Going for 50. Which classical guitarist wrote the opera The Child and the Enchantment? Was it Ravel, Segovia, or Rodrigo? Rodney didn't hesitate. He had to GCs. He had been listening to Mozart for a week. He was an executive. Ravel, Rodney said with absolute certainty. 100%. Dell, it's Ravel. Dell turned back to the camera, his chest puffed out. I'll go with that, Jonathan. It's Ravel. Jonathan Ross looked at him with a face full of pity. Derek, that was the wrong answer. It was Rodrigo. The world seemed to stop spinning. Dell's face went through every shade of red known to man. He had lost it all. Again. On national television. Chapter 7, The Phoenix of Peckham. The silence in the flat that night was heavy. Dell sat on the sofa, still wearing his game show suit, staring at the floor. Raquel was in the kitchen, and Rodney was hiding in his room, probably trying to find a way to dismantle his gladiator armor without making a sound. The phone rang. If that's Mickey Pierce, Dell growled, picking it up. I'm going to murder him. Hello, is this Derek Trotter? A voice asked. It sounded professional. This is the producer of Gold Rush. Dell rolled his eyes. Oh, give it a rest, Mickey. I can hear the jukebox in the Nag's Head from here. No, Mr. Trotter. This is serious. We've made a mistake. Our researchers checked the facts. Ravel did write the music for The Child and the Enchantment. Even though he's a composer and not primarily a guitarist, the question was flawed. Dell sat up straight. A mistake? You mean? I was right? You were right. We're offering you the 50,000 pounds, or the chance to come back and play for the 100,000. Dell looked at the room. He looked at Rodney, who had peeked his head out of the bedroom door. He looked at Raquel, who was standing in the doorway with hope in her eyes. Give all the money to charity. Dell shouted into the phone, his old bravado returning in a rush of adrenaline. And if you phone here once again, I'm going to come down there and kick your arse into shredded duck. Goodbye." He slammed the phone down. "Del," Rodney screamed. "What are you doing? That was 50 grand. Del started to laugh. A deep, wheezing Peckham laugh. It was Mickey Pierce, Rodney. I could hear the jukebox. He thought he could wind me up, but nobody winds up Derek Trotter. He stood up, adjusting his cuffs. "We're the Trotters, Rodney. We don't need charity. We're back in business. New management, new ideas. This time next year." Rodney sighed, but he couldn't help but smile. "We'll be millionaires?" "No," Del said, throwing an arm around his brother's shoulder. "This time next year, we'll be debt free. And that, Rodney, is bonjour." "It's bonjour, Del," Rodney corrected. "Exactly what I said. Prove exactly what I said." The neon sign of the Nag's Head flickered in the distance, a beacon of hope in the heart of Peckham. The Trotters were down, but they were never out. Because as long as there was a deal to be made and a brother to blame, the dream would never die. Chapter 8: The Cold Light of Day. The following morning did not bring the clarity Del Boy had hoped for. Instead, it brought a pounding headache and the lingering suspicion that he might have made a catastrophic tactical error. He sat at the formica table in the kitchen, nursing a mug of tea that was mostly sugar. Rodney stumbled in, looking disheveled. "Del," Rodney said, his voice flat, "I've been thinking about that phone call last night." "Forget it, Rodney," Del snapped. "Mickey Pierce, professional wind-up merchant, probably recorded the whole thing to play at the pub later. Low D toilet, Rodney. Water under the bridge. Del, I went to the pub this morning to get some milk because the fridge is on the blink again. And Mickey Pierce was there. He looked as miserable as a rainy Tuesday in Margate. Apparently, his latest business venture selling laser-cut toast just failed. He didn't even have enough credit on his phone to make a prank call." Del froze, his mug halfway to his lips. "What?" "And there's more. Sid showed me the morning paper. There's a small headline on page 12. Game show blunder. BBC apologizes to Peckham contestant over classical music gaffe." The silence in the kitchen was heavy. You could hear the distant rumble of the 171 bus and the slow, rhythmic dripping of the leaky tap. "So," Del whispered, his voice barely audible, "it wasn't Nicky. It was the producer. Del, you told the BBC to give £50,000 to charity in the name of the Trotters." Del Boy put his mug down. He stared at the wall, at the framed picture of their mother. "Well," he said, his voice suddenly bright and brittle, At least we'll get a plaque, or a mention in the newsletter. It's tax deductible, ain't it?" "We don't pay tax, Del. We're bankrupt," Rodney shouted. "Details, Rodney, details." Del stood up, pacing the small kitchen. This is just a temporary setback.